Now for the story of Sonic Runners. It starts with Eggman telling animals to stop running from him, and Tails tells Sonic about him capturing animals, and have to just assume they're in two different locations because of the bare bones presentation. Why isn't Knuckles guarding the emerald? So he tells Eggman off. The rings are called Loot by Sonic, which is weird. It's so uncreative and lazy to start out with Eggman capturing animals again. It's good in that only the Sonic series does this as far as I know, as a major thing. But it's not working as an intriguing, engaging start to a story. I've never read about Orbot capturing animals before. I say read since I don't see it. Tails says he'll use his handheld to check out the bonus path. I like that he likes to save time by not calling it the Miles Electric. It's too weird that he outright says special bonus path, breaking the fourth wall. Why does Tails ask Sonic if he's ever seen a star post, which has been a thing since the classic games? Sonic defeats a robot, and Tails wonders if everything's okay for no reason at all. It's so smart of a robot of Eggman to admit he doesn't stand a chance against Sonic and run from him. It's what makes Orbot and Cubot unique. It's what I'd expect of Orbot, so it's not impressive, but still. So far the plot's boring. Why does Knuckles ask Sonic if he used an item box before? There are things since the classic games. This is just there to tell the audience information they should already know. Who would have a mobile game like this as their first Sonic exposure? What's the point of the story showing us Orbot telling Eggman he couldn't get him animals? There's a lot of wasted time in this scene. This is the worst presentation in any Sonic game. In all the other plots in the style, we at least got to see more of the bodies of the characters talking. Eggman tells the Eggpawns to fly away, so apparently he's made them able to fly. I don't want to mention every time Eggman gets away. Just assume he does at the end of every cutscene. Eggman tells Cubot to get animals. I guess Cubot and Orbot don't have anything to do that only they have as a job. Why is this jump panel not looking like the springs? That's because it's for tricks. It should be called a ramp. I like that Cubot just talks to Sonic like he's his friend casually, telling him what he was put up to by Eggman. It makes him different from every other servant of Eggman's, like Scratch. It's so nice of Sonic to never beat up and try to kill Orbot and Cubot like he's fine with doing to every other robot, including Metal Sonic, who's also talked. This has to be because he sees the good in them. If they didn't have any good in them, I'd call them creators' pets. When Scratch and Grounder were smashed up, they always got fixed, so it's not like they can't make Sonic smash up Orbot and Cubot because then they won't be fixed. Sonic deals with Eggman and reveals that he frees animals from Eggpawns. So that means that in this game only, Eggman finally got the idea to use animals to power Eggpawns like the series was supposed to be doing. I'm gonna wonder why he isn't doing this for the rest of the game if it isn't pointed out that animals come out of Eggpawns every time they show up and get destroyed from now on. Finally, the story gets slightly interesting when it becomes about the heroes finding a lost Chao. It's still a ripoff because it was done in SE2, but I never saw it be a plot before. Still, considering its unoriginality, I wish the pacing was much faster in this scene. Sonic just assumes the Chao belongs to a Chao garden and not a person for no reason, when I thought their purpose in the world was as pets. This means most Chao live in nature reserves for them, called Chao gardens, which have to have protective fences or barriers around them to keep predators out. I guess Sonic assumes he just has to come from the nearest Chao garden, and that there's only one Chao garden nearby because it makes him feel better than the idea that he's probably going to bring him to the wrong place, which would normally be a problem with Chao not being able to talk. Omochao tells the heroes where to bring the Chao. What's with the series constantly using him as an actual character if they're never going to explain who made him? This only does half the work. It makes him look like a creator's pet, because they're obsessively trying to redeem him. Tails thanks him and he wishes him luck and gives him a gift, and Sonic thanks him. It can't be Tails who made him, or their dynamic would make it clear because he called Tails his master or creator, or be especially nice to him at least. Knuckles is thanked for pointing out what he should have already noticed. Why didn't Tails just ask which way the East Forest Chao Garden was in the first place the last time he talked to Omochao? That's crazy. Why didn't Omochao tell them that in the first place? Also, if this game doesn't have any kind of Chao Garden to interact with, then the mention of them is a kick in the face to the fanbase. Why don't they at least bring the Tiny Chao Garden back? Sonic thanks Omochao for exposition for the audience, and Omochao gives 1,000 rings to Sonic as a gift. So now I know what Omochao does in his spare time. Look for rings. Why is there a hero and Dark Chao in the same Chao Garden? There's basically no chances that both the villain and hero would frequent this place. Hero Chao thanks the heroes for bringing their friend home, and Dark Chao gives him a gift he's thanked for because somehow even he appreciates this. Why does a Dark Chao act nice? He should be a neutral Chao then. The only way he's evil is by calling the Lost Chao out on his stupidity. How's he not just trying to beat up Sonic? Cubot has to deal with heavy stuff to push, and Tails points out a combo bonus. How did they take until now to become a natural part of the environments of the world? I guess they were only in places never visited before. Cubot decides to go home and get recharged, and Sonic asks what the support spring is, when he would have recognized it as a spring that has wheels, but still not known about the convenient magical power it has. I guess the reason one person knows about it and he doesn't is that the one person does research. Cubot somehow is starting to ache from the work he did, despite being a robot. I guess Eggman programmed him to be like that out of sadism. Sadism over reason. He drops a magnet for Tails. This game introduces so many new magical things for this game only, and somehow nobody is questioning why they only just now found these things. It's like it's another universe from the games. It must be non-canon, which I assumed from the start. Why else did Tails think he needed to tell Sonic what a shield did? Why did Eggman not instantly know it was Cubot talking? Sonic dealing with Eggman never actually amounts to anything in the plot. He just keeps getting away from him, along with Cubot here. It would matter if he dealt with him, if it was the only reason the people there would be able to get away from him. Tails calls the invincibility power-up their old friend, so why only that? And why does it call it invincible? Sonic asks an animal if he's okay, and he and Omochao were scared by a ghost. I think ghosts looking scary is the only reason anyone would be afraid of them. Because all you have to do is punch it a few times, and it vanishes. Tails tells the Chao that everything's alright, and it turns out it can understand Chao. So why did they need Omochao to translate? Sonic thanks him, and Tails tells the Chao to run if he senses danger. So, at least in the runner's dimension, Green being able to communicate with and understand Chao isn't unique after all. A Chao thanks them, and a golden egg pawn is taken out, which gives Sonic more points. I have to assume they just turned golden by the magic all over the place they go to. Because why would Eggman make robots golden when that only benefits Sonic? Some people disagree about there being magic all over the place, and the heroes tap into it. Here's the thing though, the heroes keep magic in them over time, because they're exposed to it so much. The proof of that is that Sonic beats Perfect Chaos without being in his super form in Generations, proving that the heroes are getting stronger over time. So if they're exposed to magic enough, then no, you wouldn't have a situation where if they went to a planet without Chaos Emerald energy all over it, they wouldn't have their magical powers anymore, which would feel weird and wrong. That doesn't happen because the heroes keep the magic in them. Eventually the heroes encounter a Wisp, and Sonic's surprised by that. Tails left his translation unit at home, which makes no sense because it was in his handheld in colors and he has it. Or at least a handheld identical looking to it. I guess he was holding his spare Miles Electric, because Eggman broke the Miles Electric. I hate that Sonic calls it Tails' house. How does a kid own a house? And why put an S after Tails'? Tails plans to let the Chao and animals know that they didn't see a ghost. The plot would be more interesting if they did see a ghost. Omochao tells the heroes Eggman kidnapped the Wisp, and Tails naturally assumes he's planning to harness his energy again. Which makes more sense than IDW, where Eggman says the Wisps are more trouble than they're worth, when they almost let him brainwash the planet. In fact, here Eggman is trying to squeeze every drop of Hyper Gohan power out of him. He didn't give up on using animals just because Sonic kept trying to stop him from that. So why would Sonic stopping him make him give up on the Wisps? Is it because it created a black hole? Clearly that's not why, because Sega still thought this would happen. Eggman throws the Wisp on the ground. Everyone else followed Mama Wisp back to their home planet, but some of the Wisps stayed behind because they liked it here. It makes sense that only some did. Also, why would they stay behind permanently? There is no indication that Planet Wisp sucks. Wouldn't they prefer their own planet? Sonic talks to them nicely, as I'm glad they not only explained this, but also referenced Mother Wisp from Colors DS. There's an earthquake, and Sonic asks Omochao if he's hurt. A lot of earthquakes have been happening recently, like in that one story of STC, so naturally it turns out it's from digging in this story too. The heroes see yellow wisps that want to help Sonic. That scene didn't need to be nowhere near as long when one sentence describes it. Tails gives Sonic advice so he can get more points. Points don't even do anything. I doubt extra lives are canon, or there'd be no reason for anybody to get worried. So it's not like they exist because getting enough of them gives you an extra life. The yellow wisps caused the earthquake that scared people, not a giant machine. It'd be even more creative if they were evil instead of continuing to let you think all wisps are good. There'd be an actual point to still using wisps if you just had one of them be a villain for once. Then Eggman threatens Sonic. The more times he fails in this one game, the more pathetic he looks. And Sonic is thanked for saving the Wisp from Eggman. The Wisp thanks Sonic for letting him help. Why is Omochao hanging out with the animals anyways? He never did that in the game. He actually makes more sense when he has a job, because you could still assume he's getting paid. He tediously says hello to every one of the heroes individually, reminding me of a fanfiction of Flynn's. And even that lampshaded that in the narration. And he tells the heroes about a light collecting rings, which I hope is as interesting as it sounds. It sounds magical. It also makes me think of a spaceship with a tractor beam. Sonic thanks Tails for saying something that gets him to figure out a trick on his own. Eggman wants the rest of the Wisps and is stopped. He says 2 defeats in one day. It felt to me like the entire adventure was happening in just one day. Good thing there's a sunset to make it more believable. The mysterious light really was just from a wisp. That's lame. I thought it was going to establish something new in Sonic's world. I wonder if every interesting new mystery is going to turn out to be one of the wisps that shouldn't be here in such huge quantities. Omochao tells the heroes that a place got destroyed. Why did they only just now think it could have been because of Eggman? They find out Eggman captured some wisps and made them cause this destruction. We never saw a story where he made wisps cause actual destruction before, which is the only compliment I have because I know he doesn't need wisps to destroy things. Why is it acting like he does? The wisp says thanks, and I think of how stupid a name Indigo Asteroid is, because asteroids are by definition gigantic, so it would only be an asteroid if it was hit with a shrink ray and was brought here. I guess Sonic's uncle did all that while exploring the universe. Or Eggman did. How did Tails persuade the Indigo Wisps to calm down? What I mean is, how was he able to get them to calm down if they didn't calm down the instant they saw Sonic and Tails and recognized them as heroes of the world? Wouldn't their mere presence reassure them? He's told nice work. Do I even need to explain that Eggman was stopped at this point? I think we can just assume that happens every time he's the instigator of the plot. Omochao warns Sonic that Eggman's sending robots to invade an animal village like it's SCC. I'm surprised because the animals can't talk like we can, and yet Sonic can always understand them, which means they're just talking in their own language. So of course they're smart enough to make a village. They never came off like actual people in the games. Sure, there was a city in the background in Starlight Zone, but for all we knew, Eggman made the city, and it was a ghost town. This is only impressing me by reminding me of SCC, because it's been done a million times there. But in the game's universe, how is this the first time we heard about him sending robots to get animals from a village? Every other time the animals were somehow wandering around in non-village places. Which makes no sense if they're people. I can understand a few people in non-village places because they're taking a walk and appreciating the nature. But all of them are. Sonic calls Tails pal and gets told to look up at the clouds. The heroes find out that a place with animals is overrun with robots. Sonic thanks Omochao for telling him that. Tails needs Omochao to ask the animals where Eggman captured people from so they could find his base, which Sonic could have found by just running around at Sonic speed enough. A robot being smashed gets Knuckles to tell Tails nice job. Somehow he's flattered by being praised for beating one measly Badnik. Why doesn't he realize how little he thinks about him if he's actually impressed by this? Badniks die in one hit. They're pathetic. Knuckles is eager to put the base out of commission, unlike an IDW. Omochao thanks the heroes for saving the animals from Eggman, making it safe for them to go home. Omochao says the animals want to give them gifts,